Monarch Springs, Missouri is an interesting place to visit. I didn't have many expectations when I got here, but there are some actually interesting things to check out. So behind me, there's a railroad car. I'm assuming this was a railroad station. Monarch Springs was named after the Missouri and Northern Arkansas Railroad. So Missouri, Northern Arkansas, Monarch. That's how they got the name Monarch Springs, because there's a spring, there's a creek near here, and I guess there were some springs here. In 1956, there was a Church of God national kind of meeting here in the summer, and hundreds of people came, and a significant typhoid fever breakout happened in Monarch Springs. And the CDC came into town to investigate. I guess what happened was someone brought it in from out of town and contaminated the water that everyone was drinking. And back then, you know, there was well water and people drank from the same source. The Church of God, behind there's a fence that says Church of God, national meeting, and there's a bunch of buildings. I've not seen a single person. I haven't heard a single person kind of wander around. I don't see many cars. So there's a bunch of reasonably, you know, newer looking buildings, and maybe there's people in them, but I haven't seen a single person yet. Jolly, Missouri is also known at one time as Jollification, named after, it wasn't named because it was a happy place. It was because the person who was the proprietor of the early mill here, his last name was Jolly. So, but now all that's left of Jolly is basically a privately funded park. And so I'm standing here by the mill, and so I didn't come during when it's open. It's open from April to October, as you can see over my shoulder, but it's on the National Registry of Historic Places. So it's a very impressive mill, and they have made a nice park out of it. So if you want to, I guess, visit the mill, you want to come in the summertime and check it out. And it's right on the edge of a conservation area, so no drone footage allowed. So I'll just kind of walk around and show you where the town of Jolly used to be and what is here now. there's nothing left except for a few remains of, I think a school. A school might have been here. And then there's one house right across the street. Possum Trot, that's a funny name. Fun fact, there was discussion in the early days of Kansas City to name it Possum Trot instead of Kansas City. When the settlers first moved there, they were bouncing around some different ideas for names, and Possum Trot was one of them. Obviously was named Kansas City, and this is the real Possum Trot, Missouri. The name Almartha came from two of the early settlers. It was I think it was Alfred and Martha, and they combined the name to become Almartha. That's how. It's funny how some of the names, come about in these old towns from back in the day. They were just pretty simple, and they were trying to figure out what to name it, and they combined the names with some of the early settlers. And this is an older town from the 1850s. There's not much left. There's a few older buildings. Post office was in use for over 100 years until, not too long ago, into the, I think, 1970s and 1980s. And so the main things to see is this community center. I don't know how long it's been since it's been in use, but then there are a couple other older buildings, a couple other old houses, and it's a very, very beautiful area.